Hello guys, it's Jonathan here doing another Bakugan BakuTech Retrospect episode. This is episode 4, focusing on Van Falco. So Van Falco was originally released as BTC 11 in a blister pack, but it was then re-released as BTC 18 in a box to have updated cross-part connection points. Although for Van Falco, it is worth noting these are not as well updated. We'll get to that. We also had a Van Falco re-release in BCV 26, Best Selection, and of course in BTD01, the Ujin deck Team Dragon. This one in particular has plastic cross pieces, by the way. It is a Ventus Bakugan, and its G power in most releases is either 510, 520, or 560 Gs, however the BTD version is 590 Gs. And it was released in November 2010, just like Kilo and Leonis. Looking at the ball form, we have kind of a dark aquamarine color scheme here. Has white markings, quite a bit of them. Really nice detailing on the tail here. You can see the cross parts here as well. Looks pretty nice. Opening it up. So it opens up like this. Sometimes the wings here get a little caught on the feet and whatnot, and also sometimes even the back of the cross parts there as well. But once it is all opened up, you do have 4 manual parts to take out, which are on these wings here. You have these on the sides that flip out, and then also these on the top. You can see a cross part just fell off there. More on that in a moment, but yeah, we'll cover that. But yeah, there we go. So here's the proper open form with the cross parts actually attached. So let's go ahead and do a bit of a 360 here. So you can go ahead and see what this thing looks like. Actually, it's a really nice looking open design. The long tail is also really cool. Also a feature that we will get to in a moment here. But yeah, there we go. Again, really nice open form. So definitely a big fan of this design. Now, talking about the physical design elements of Van Falco, there are 2 main notable things. First up here, we have these 2 cross pieces on the back here, which, okay. So, 2 metal cross pieces, that's nice, but the main problem is that the molding on these, it's just not quite right. Even with the updated molds, these things tend to fall off very easily. This is a common issue with Van Falco, really in any iteration, honestly. Again, even the updated molds, this one right here, is from the second batch of them, from BTC 18. But even so, the cross-part connection issue still persists. So Van Falco is a Bakugan that is very rough to recommend, honestly, because of this issue. I have a couple other color variants, one of which has the same exact issue, slightly better, but still has the issue where they fall off pretty easily, whereas my other one actually is fairly solid. So with Van Falco, it's just very much the luck of the draw, if you're being honest. These things just don't stand well, and it is highly variable depending on which one you get. And even then, there's really no consistent way to tell how bad it's going to be. The only real sign is if you have a Mold 1 BTC 11 Van Falco, and those tend to just be really bad, regardless. Additionally, you also have this unique mechanic in the tail. The tail kind of comes down with a bit of force. Nothing crazy, but still you have some force here in this tail. This is fairly notable as it allows Van Falco to actually kind of skip to the next card. So if it hits on the ground, it can actually kind of hop over to a hypothetical card next to it. I feel like the effectiveness of this is a bit questionable. There are instances where you might want to skip the next card, but again, you have to really keep in mind your magnet positioning to make sure you're actually closer to the edge of a card to get this to work properly. Otherwise, you kind of just jump a little bit on the same card. It doesn't do a whole lot. Again, this has use cases, but I just don't think it's quite enough. Additionally, you can use this as kind of an extra attack. Because it jumps off the card a little bit, that does give it a bit more pop-up force. Aside from just being a decently sized Bakugan with a couple metal parts, having that extra spring there, giving it a little bit of extra attack power, it makes it into a decent attacker. It's nothing crazy, but it's something. It's at least okay because of that. But at the very least, this tail does actually add something to its physical design, which is pretty nice. And now we move on to how to actually close Van Falco. It might look a little bit difficult when first looking at it, but it's actually not too bad. So first up, you're going to want to go ahead and just close all of the manual parts, which is fairly straightforward. It's just kind of a simple hinge for each one. After this, you're going to close up the feet and then the lower wings like this. Then you're going to bring the head in and this tail up. Don't close this tail all the way though, leave it kind of up so you can put these other wings in as well. It'll be like this, and then after all of that is done, you want to make sure this head's in a little better than that. There we go. And then this simply locks, and Van Falco is closed. Can be a little bit awkward, but it's not too hard. Just a little bit awkward for me because I'm behind the camera, but there you go. Now, looking at the anime and manga, Van Falco is owned by Sho. He is the other Griff brother, and also part of the main group with Team Dragon, and Van Falco is the Bakugan that he uses for around the first half of Season 1 in the anime, and also for quite a while in the manga. So Van Falco is at least decently prevalent in BakuTech. And now we move on to the variants. The silver version was released in BTC 19, the Battlemaster set, BCV 20, Blue Blaze, and BCV 22, Grey Dragon. The first two being 560Gs, with the latter being 580Gs. The clear version released in BTC 33, Saint Dragon Ultra Hybrid set, as well as BCV 21, White Radiant, and BCV 22, Grey Dragon. The set version being 560Gs, White Radiance being either 560 or 580Gs, and then Grey Dragon being 600Gs. The red version from BCV 23, Shield of Super Bridge. This version actually has plastic cross pieces unlike everything else with metal, and is 700Gs. The Baku Metallic Green version, a Korokoro Lottery Prize at 560Gs. And lastly, we have a weird case, a prototype version. I could not find any information on a release for this thing. It was likely a factory leak, but regardless, it does show the printed G power of 680Gs, interestingly. Moving on to the competitive side of things, Van Falco was probably the worst original BakuTech Bakugan released at the time, only being the 4th ever release, but it didn't have the attack power that quite measured up to something like Flare Dragon or even Destroy Minicus, and wasn't really a defensive Bakugan like Keel Leonis. I guess you could argue that it has a small amount of occupancy merit, but it really wasn't built for that, nor is it really great for defense either. The tail jump was okay, but not perfect. Again, it's a bit situational. So overall, it was just kind of an okay Bakugan, and it just sort of existed in this weird niche for a while until we get something like Rise Dragon, which also has a tail that when it hits the ground allows it to kind of jump a bit, which again can have the same card hopping functionality, but Rise Dragon is also just a much better attacker, so ultimately Van Falco kind of just exists and doesn't do a whole lot. It's not bad though, again, you have a little bit of attack merit with this thing, again, a bit of utility as well, so it's not bad, and by my own metrics with my tier list, it ranks at around mid-C tier. But anyways, that's all for Van Falco. It's a pretty interesting Bakugan within BakuTech's history. I apologize if this video was a bit awkward. I was actively fighting against these cross pieces the entire video. They did not want to stay on, but anyway, it's done now, so hopefully it turned out okay, but next episode will be on Grand Panzer. So anyways, until then, thanks for watching, and bye-bye.